Annex Foundation, December 2025. Envy and jealousy, definitions, distinctions, and cultural consequences, a postmillennial Pentecostal commentary. Matthew T. Corbett, DSL. Too long. Didn't read summary. The paper argues that envy and jealousy are fundamentally different moral impulses. Envy desires what belongs to another and seeks to destroy or displace them, while jealousy rightly guards what has been entrusted by God. Envy flows from disbelief in God's order and produces comparison, resentment, hostility, and ultimately social disorder. By contrast, righteous jealousy protects covenantal responsibilities, leadership doctrine, and cultural stability. The author concludes that cultures shaped by envy collapse into resentment and leveling, while cultures that cultivate proper jealousy produce strong families, institutions, and Christian civilization. Definitions. Before any meaningful discussion can take place concerning jealousy and envy, the terms must be clearly defined. Much confusion surrounding envy and jealousy is the result of modern-day vague language and overly emotional reasoning. Scripture is neither vague nor emotionally imprecise. It treats these two concepts as morally distinct and functionally opposed. Envy is the desire to possess what has been given to another. It is discontent with one's assigned place and resentment toward the success, blessing, or favor of others. Envy does not seek stewardship, but rather seeks displacement at any cost. Think of this as a person who tears down others in order for gain, or is generally happier when another doesn't have the object of the antagonist's desires. Jealousy is the protective impulse to guard what has been entrusted. It can be covenantal in nature. Proper jealousy presupposes responsibility, authority, and obligation. It exists to defend boundaries rather than erase them. Jealousy can be either positive or negative, whereas envy is exclusively negative. These definitions form the foundation for everything that follows. Without them, moral reasoning collapses into emotionalistic reasoning. The belief structure beneath envy. Culture is the expression of beliefs and values. Envy, therefore, must be understood first as a belief problem before it is treated as a behavioral issue. At its core, envy is disbelief in God's order, and more fundamentally, it is a disbelief in God Himself. It assumes that blessing is either arbitrary or unjust. The envious person does not ask how to be faithful with what he has been given. He asks why someone else has more, and resents that person for it. Scripture repeatedly links envy with disorder. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. James 3:16 ESV. In this passage, the jealousy described is competitive rivalry, not covenantal zeal. It is ambition that refuses limits. For a clearer explanation of this passage, combine the definitions, and you will see envy. For where an improperly protective impulse, negative jealousy, is with the desire to solely possess the preeminence, envy, disorder, and evil follows. Envy produces comparison. Comparison produces resentment. Resentment produces hostility. This progression is predictable and repeatable. Cain did not kill Abel because Abel wronged him. He killed him because Abel was favored. Envy always interprets another person's blessing as a personal injury. If they have X, then I am less because of it. Because envy rejects hierarchy, it is fundamentally anti-leadership. It resists authority because authority distributes responsibility and honor unequally. Over time, envy becomes hostile not only to leaders but to excellence itself. Anyone and anything that is of improved quality becomes a target. We see this most clearly through the governmental philosophies of socialism and communism. The engine of these religions' political philosophies is envy. The cultural outcomes of envy. When envy becomes normalized, culture begins to erode. Systems built on envy do not reward competence, they punish it. The goal is not growth, but leveling to the lowest common denominator. Envy cannot build a sustainable culture because it cannot tolerate fruitfulness. It must either confiscate results or destroy those who achieve them. Scripture lists envy among the works of the flesh. Galatians 5:21. This places it in the category of moral rebellion to Christ and not emotional weakness. Envy, must either confiscate results or destroy those who achieve them. Cultures shaped by envy spend more time managing resentment than producing value. Over time, trust collapses and cooperation becomes impossible. Institutions weaken because authority is no longer respected. The moral function of jealousy. Jealousy operates on an entirely different moral axis. Where envy seeks to take, jealousy seeks to guard. Where envy resents boundaries, jealousy enforces them. Scripture speaks of jealousy without embarrassment. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Exodus 25, ESV. God's jealousy is the refusal to allow what is holy to be corrupted. The Apostle Paul applies this same framework pastorally. I feel a divine jealousy for you, 2 Corinthians 11:2, ESV. His concern is faithfulness to the things of Christ. Jealousy, in this sense, protects purity and continuity against corruption. Jealousy becomes sinful only when it detaches from legitimate authority or responsibility. When a person guards what was never entrusted to him, jealousy mutates into possessiveness. But when jealousy flows from calling, it becomes a requirement. It is the difference between a husband guarding his wife and a boyfriend guarding his girlfriend. One has a responsibility to husband a woman, while the other is simply interviewing for the job. You want an employee who is jealous for their job, making sure everything is working well, and they are doing a good job. You don't want an employee who is trying to seize the jobs of everyone around them. Jealousy, confrontation, and moral courage. Jealousy is inseparable from confrontation. What is guarded must be defended. Silence in the face of threat is abdication. This is where the majority of Christian leaders in the world today are disqualified from the ministry. When the rubber meets the road, leaders often abdicate their responsibility due to any number of excuses. Jealousy is inseparable from confrontation. In leadership, jealousy protects mission. In family, it protects covenant responsibility and generational faithfulness. In the church, it protects doctrine and holiness. Without jealousy, boundaries dissolve and responsibility disappears. This is why cultures that reject confrontation inevitably drift toward chaos. Jealousy requires strength. Weak leaders prefer tolerance because tolerance demands nothing. Ordered love and postmillennial implications. From a postmillennial framework, the distinction between envy and jealousy is civilizational. This distinction is the difference from the thriving Christian cultures that come to dominate the world and those that cannot produce any lasting or influential impact despite decades of existence. The advance of the kingdom depends on ordered love. Ordered love requires clear boundaries, clear authority, and clear responsibility. Envy erodes all three. Jealousy reinforces them. A man cannot exercise dominion over what he resents or what he has not been given. He can only steward what he values. Envy, at its core, resents fruitfulness while jealousy protects it. If a man fails to exercise dominion, he doesn't love what is entrusted to him. Godly jealousy forces one to guard and protect. Scripture ties national health to moral clarity. Righteousness exalts a nation. Proverbs 14:34, ESV. Envy produces reproach because it destroys trust. Jealousy, when righteous, produces stability because it enforces faithfulness. One of the more pertinent examples of envy happens when a young minister begins to do well, and the pastor crushes that person in order to humble them or for some other contrived reason. I have watched countless churches destroyed by this method with Pentecostalism. When envy is the MO of your leadership methodology, chaos always follows. Envy, at its core and most fundamental, is Antichrist. Conclusion. Envy and jealousy are not variations of the same impulse. They are opposites. They can exist in the same person at the same time, complicating things further. While jealousy is generally positive, it can be indulged in sinfully, just like other positive impulses, such as the sexual impulse. Envy desires what has not been given, and therefore destroys. Envy cannot abide the fruitfulness of others, striving to knock them down a peg and take the shine off them. Jealousy, on the other hand, guards what has been entrusted and therefore preserves. Jealousy doesn't allow interlopers to soil what God has given them. While jealousy can have good and bad expressions, envy can only have negative expressions. Cultures that confuse these two will punish responsibility and reward resentment. Cultures that distinguish them clearly will produce strong families, functional institutions, and durable leadership. The core of the problem in our society today is envy and a lack of jealousy. Socialism is a great barometer for envy. The more you hear tax the rich, the more you understand it's not about helping the poor. It's about destroying those with more. Beliefs create values. Values create culture. And culture determines direction.